Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of We Are Milton, a podcast brought to you by the City of Milton. The goal of the podcast is to provide information about all things related to Milton, Wisconsin. I'm Inga Cushman, Administrative Services Director for the City of Milton.
And I'm Al Hulick, City Administrator for the City of Milton. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you. The focus of today's podcast is going to be on COVID-19 or the coronavirus and Rock County's reopening phased plan. Al is here to provide a brief history of how the plan was developed and some of the key points of the plan, and we will then discuss how the Rock County reopening phased plan affects city operations.
Yeah. So the Rock County reopening phase plan, which I think is the official name of it, was announced to all of us in Rock County on Tuesday morning from County Administrator Josh Smith. And the Rock County reopening plan, I'll just truncate it to that, was a plan created by the Rock County Health Department, but there was a task force also created of Rock County stakeholders that included a number of individuals from throughout the region. And they represented the nonprofits, governmental entities, the business sector, chambers of commerce, the health community, our hospitals, things of that nature. So the Rock County Health Department put together this Rock County reopening plan, received input from those stakeholders on that task force, and then announced that to the region on Tuesday morning in conjunction with their announcement that they would be rescinding the Rock County Safer at Home order on Thursday morning, which at the time that we are recording this was just a handful of hours ago. So that's kind of the background of how the Rock County reopening plan came into existence. Now it's up to each of us to look at that plan, understand that plan, familiarize yourself with that plan, and then see how you can do your best to work within the guidelines of that plan provided.
And for the task force that you talked about, who specifically from Milton was on that task force that helped with the plan?
Yeah. So from the Milton community, I was on it myself, our mayor, Anita Welch, as well as our Chamber of Commerce Executive Director, Danny Stavarius from the Milton Area Chamber of Commerce. All three of us served on that. And then there was a number of individuals who obviously have an impact on the Milton community too when you talk about healthcare professionals and things of that nature too. But the ones that are based right here in Milton, the three of us served on that task force.
Good. And then did you talk about how the plan isn't necessarily in order?
Right. Yeah. So one of the important distinctions between the Rock County reopening plan and the Safer at Home order is just as you said, the Rock County reopening plan is not an order, and what that means is that it's not enforceable through penalties if you do not adhere to the Rock County reopening plan. It really is a set of guidelines that can help our communities understand the risks that are still involved with the coronavirus and the proactive and protective measures that we can and should take in order to help mitigate some of those risks that still exist and continue to flatten the curve as kind of been the parlance of the time. So it is a phased reopening plan, and there are several metrics within it that the county will be monitoring on a day-to-day basis, and they have a dashboard available at the Rock County Health Department's page that anybody can log into and see where we currently sit in terms of the measurement of those metrics. And the phased plan calls for certain criteria to be met before we move into the next phase. It's a three-phase plan, and with the reopening of the county this morning, we reopened right into phase one. So the next step in the process, logically and hopefully, would be to continue to address some of those metrics that are being measured so we can move into phase two and then eventually phase three.
And the dashboard is actually really user-friendly, I think. On the website, it's, green, yellow, red lights, yes, basically showing where we're at in achieving those different metrics.
Right. Yeah, and those metrics are, those are science-based and experience-based data points talking about the availability of hospital beds, the availability of ventilators at hospitals, the amount of cases that are reported within the county, the amount of tests that are being conducted that come back positive versus negative. So I would encourage everybody to kind of go on there and take a look at it. familiarize yourself with it so you can be comfortable with understanding, okay, this all seems a little bit over my pay grade. They've really done a wonderful job of really kind of making it, like you said, user-friendly, easy to understand. And what I like about it is it takes away the kind of uncertainty that exists of, okay, where do I need to look to get this piece of data and this piece of data? And I saw this static piece of information 2 days ago. Where are we at today? So it is a wonderful tool for people to utilize, not only for your business, but also just for your peace of mind and your family.
Mm-hmm. And maybe we can just talk about a couple of the points in the plan that we've received, a few more questions about lately. So I guess
Sure.
rummage sales was one of the questions that I'd received recently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and rummage sales are, again, one of those things. The plan is pretty detailed. Certainly doesn't go into every aspect of our life, but certainly I think they've done a great job of attempting to kind of at least hit those big categories that folks are most interested in. So, for example, rummage sales, which is a great example. We're coming into the summer months here. Rummage sales are very popular. It specifically addresses rummage sales and how they should be implemented by homeowners during the various phases. So again, we opened the plan this morning in phase one. Phase one indicates that rummage sales are a permitted activity, but that folks should try to limit customers or attendees to 10 or less people while still practicing safe social distancing and safe hygiene practices. So, I don't know. It's been a while since I've had a rummage sale, but if I had 10 people at a rummage sale, I'd be excited. 10 people at one time. So I think that, that's something, again, it's a good guideline. It's really something that, folks, I think, can take a look at and say, okay, I get this, and maybe set up your path through your tables in a way that makes it easier for people to practice safe social distancing.
And I know that I've seen a lot of restaurants have opened or will be opening in the next couple days for dine-in service.
Mm-hmm.
So the guidelines talk about limiting to a 25% capacity, no self-service and physical distancing, protective measures, and best business practices.
Yeah.
So again, these are guidelines. Not
Yep.
every business is going to follow the guidelines that are provided by the county, but these are here to provide some additional information for those businesses.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And, I think, some of that stuff is, again, difficult maybe to understand. So if you have a business, if you have a restaurant, if you have a retail establishment, and you read that piece that you just said, 25% capacity limits, no self-service, if you have questions about what that means, certainly folks at the Rock County Health Department would be willing to assist you, as well as us at the City of Milton. That 25% capacity has been something that's kind of been talked about a lot. And some people may say, well, I don't know my capacity. We can help you figure that out. We have those records. They're routinely maintained by our fire marshal. Public Works Department would be able to help you with that. So again, if you're looking to follow these guidelines and you really want to do the right thing, so we want to help you do that.
Yeah, and from a staff perspective, we were actually just talking about our own capacity limits in some of our facilities. So we'll be trying to figure that out as well as we move forward with talking about reopening city facilities and what that's going to look like.
Exactly, yeah.
So I think that's maybe a good segue into talking about how the Rock County reopening phased plan is going to affect city operations at this point.
Yeah, there's still some unknown pieces as we kind of travel these uncharted waters, but yeah, the Rock County reopening plan really helps the City of Milton create a framework of how we are going to address our city operations. Up till today and prior to 8 o'clock this morning, city operations were still a full go. There really wasn't anything that wasn't being done, but we were taking kind of a creative approach on how we were administering those services. So really, the things that maybe impacted folks, probably not most folks, but maybe impacted some folks, was some of our facilities were closed to the public. Outside of the library, not a lot of people kind of come and hang out at City Hall lobby. Not a lot of people kind of come and hang out at DPW lobby. But those facilities have been closed, but operations have been continuing behind those closed doors throughout this entire pandemic. So the next steps for us are kind of looking at the plan and seeing what best meets our abilities and needs of the community. So determining when we're going to reopen some of those facilities to the public is something that we're currently working on. We feel like we've got a pretty good framework as to how we want to proceed and when that would happen. If you look at the, again, Rock County reopening plan in phase 1, it talks about professional services and office type uses, which typically, that's what we're talking about here, would have a 25% capacity and should limit contacts with the public with having safe social distancing and things like that. So those are the things that we're looking into right now, and how that how we can, again, best kind of mirror those guidelines while still protecting our staff and the public and those folks who come in.
And some of the definite decisions we've made, though, at this point is to open up our playgrounds.
Yes.
So
yeah,
seems like people are pretty excited about that.
yeah, we were able to open those back up at 8 a.m. This morning, and I haven't driven around the community too much, but I'm sure there's people that are out there enjoying it, especially with the impending rainstorms that we're going to see soon. But again, the Rock County plan provides guidance that playgrounds can be open, and again, attempting to limit those playgrounds to 10 people or less while practicing safe social distancing. And we believe that our community has their neighbors and friends and families' best intentions at heart. So we've opened up our playgrounds, and hopefully people are out enjoying those. The ones that are a little bit more difficult is the splash pad. First off, it's probably too cold to be at the splash pad right now.
Yeah.
We typically don't open it till Memorial Day anyways, but at this time we're going to keep the splash pad closed because of that challenge that we would have in limiting 10 or less people and practicing safe social distancing, and because of the high number of contact points that the splash pad has. For anybody who's ever been out there, in order to turn it on, you got to touch a button, and everybody loves to touch the button, and they race to touch the button. So at this time, until we can, kind of see how things play out in terms of the metrics, we're going to keep that closed for now. The other one is the park bathrooms. We only have 3 parks that have bathrooms in it anyways. I don't.
4.
Yeah, good. North Woodridge, South Woodridge. Yeah.
Yeah.
So those are still closed at this time. Again, for the same kind of rationale, CDC guidelines indicate that best practices should be to clean those types of public facilities every 2 hours. And that would be an incredible burden and challenge for us to meet that requirement. So we don't want to give people a false sense of security if they're open, and let them think that that things are okay when we can't, really ensure that. So those also will remain closed at this time. But as I kind of said, there are several parks in the community that don't have bathrooms at them anyways: Cross Ridge, Tower Hill, things of that nature. So it really only impacts those 4 parks.
And just quick, just because our playgrounds are open, the city of Milton's doesn't mean that the school district playgrounds are open right now.
Yeah, that's correct. Unfortunately, they are under kind of a different set of guidelines that we are, at least at this time. They adhere to the Department of Public Instruction, or DPI instructions, and even the original Safer at Home order as issued by Governor Evers. Although the extension of that was done by Secretary Palm was overturned, the Supreme Court did not overturn the portion of that order, an extension that dealt with schools. So their facilities at this time, as of May 21st, at what are we, about 2:30 when we're recording this, are still closed. But I say that jokingly, but things change so quickly. I wouldn't want anybody to get the impression that if they view this 2 or 3 days from now, that may still be the case. So I would always encourage everybody to kind of stay on top of social media, stay on top of the news that's out there, so you can stay informed to what's going on today, because things have changed by the hour, let alone by the day on some of these days. So yeah, school districts facilities would, as of right now, would still be closed until June 30th.
And just to drive this point home as well, Schilberg Park, our largest park in the community, that's actually owned by the school district. So that falls under the rules for the school district, not for the city of Milton.
That's correct. Yeah, I know it's a little confusing, but it is a school district facility. And although it is not a facility in which instructional activity takes place, it still falls under the same guidelines that are in the state orders. So yeah, they still would be closed. Those playground facilities would be closed until June 30th at this time.
And at this point, the library, they're still doing their curbside pickup and plan to do that at least for now. I'm not sure what their plan is at this point for potential reopening, but Ashley and the library director at the Milton Public Library and her team, they'll be updating everybody on their plans as soon as they can on their website and social media. So be sure to watch for that.
Yeah, and similarly to school districts, libraries receive their guidance from DPI as well. And what we know, what we learned this morning is that DPI will hopefully be issuing some guidance, some new guidance to libraries, so they may be able to expand their offerings to the community hopefully pretty soon. I know that Ashley and Jamie and the crew there are excited to see everybody and get back to doing what they love. So we know people love our library, and our library loves our people. So we hope we can, have a wonderful reunion soon.
Well, is there anything else that you think that people should know, or points from the plan that should be reiterated or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the best case or the best advice I can give to folks who are not aware of kind of what it means is to go to the Rock County Health page, and we have links to it on our website as well. Take a look at the plan. Although it's 7 pages, it's a pretty easy document to understand. I don't want anybody to be afraid or feel overwhelmed by it. Scroll through it, take a look at it, and then at the end of the day, the decision is really yours. As Inga pointed out, these are guidelines that Rock County and the City of Milton and those folks who are on the task force that created this plan are encouraging folks to follow. And that doesn't only necessarily impact business owners, that impacts consumers as well. So we want our consumers who come to the City of Milton to frequent our restaurants and our shops to feel comfortable too. Because when everybody feels comfortable and everybody feels safe, everybody wins. So it's not just necessarily a matter of a business owner who looks at the guidelines and says, I don't know, I don't know about that. It's really about the consumers too and your customers. And we want to make sure that people feel comfortable and safe in our community. And we want to make sure that people feel comfortable and safe in your businesses as well. So although these are guidelines, we do strongly encourage you to take a look at them and do the best you can to adhere to them. We know that some of these that everybody has individual situations, and some of the things may be more difficult for one business versus another. But again, at the end of the day, we're all in this together, and we want people to feel safe and comfortable in our community and in your businesses. So that's the best advice I can give. And I don't have a PhD. I'm not a medical professional. I'm not an attorney either. But as a human being and somebody who loves our community, I want to make sure that we all feel good about it.
Good. Well, I think with that, I'll say thanks everyone for listening to this episode of We Are Milton. It took us a while to get back on track with recording episodes, but I hope to be able to do this a lot more in the future to provide some important information to our community members. Yeah,
and hopefully soon we can record this in the building that's shown behind us.
Yes.
So it'd be really nice.
Yeah, and if you have any questions about COVID-19 or the coronavirus, the Rock County reopening phased plan, or any other thing else related to city operations, just send us an email, voicemail, anything like that. Get in contact with us, and we'll see if we can put a podcast together or some other communication pieces to provide to the community.
Yeah, absolutely.
So our podcast is available on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and Facebook, and we also post a video version on YouTube. So,
awesome.
Until next time, we are Milton.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.